story broke today? What do you got? What's our top story from Cheap Heat?
About 2 hours before AEW Collision and WWE Payback, CM Punk was fired from AEW. And there's a Tony Khan, and I'm going to just share my screen out here, so give me just a sec.
Sure. CM Punk, he had been suspended, right?
That's right. It's a minute and 30 seconds, so I'm going to hit play.
Today I had to make one of the toughest decisions of my professional career. Today I terminated Phil Brooks, CM Punk, for cause. This stems from a backstage incident at AEW All In last Sunday. The incident was regrettable, and it endangered people backstage. That includes the production staff, the people who help put the show on every week, innocent people who had nothing to do with it. I've been going to wrestling shows for over 30 years. I've been producing them on this network for nearly 4 years. Never in all that time have I ever felt, until last Sunday, that my security, my safety, my life was in danger at a wrestling show. I don't think anybody should feel that way at work. I don't think the people I work with should feel that way. And I had to make a very difficult choice today. It came at the recommendation of a discipline committee here in AEW, as well as outside legal counsel who delivered a unanimous recommendation. And I have followed up on that recommendation. I'm sorry to any fans who are upset by this. I'm sorry to anyone who's upset by this. Despite that, we're gonna have a great show tonight on Collision, and we're gonna have a great AEW All Out pay-per-view tomorrow here in Chicago. Last weekend was the greatest weekend in AEW history. This is the greatest week in AEW history. We're gonna continue the great momentum here tonight on Collision and tomorrow night on All Out pay-per-view. Let's take a
All right. What do you think about that one, Dom?
CM Punk never quite fit into AEW, did he?
Well, I mean, for the first year or so, he was okay. But ultimately, I have some takeaways here. I said in our last show, AEW needs to fire CM Punk. I don't understand why he's still on the roster. And Tony Khan must have watched our show, Dom, because he got fired.
They're watching us, John.
In addition to that, I feel like this was one of the, such a last straw thing. He had gone out, he shot, he had the incident. They apparently cleared the air last year. Then he came back because Tony wanted him to come back so bad because Tony loves him. He came back. After he comes back, he's immediately being one of these guys that's he's shooting promos about Hangman Adam Page after a show that's not part of a storyline, aka he's just being a jerk, and he's just screaming about one of the people in the locker room. He attacks Jack Perry after a show. So this is the third time or the second fight he's been in a year. And it's this isn't, I don't know, this isn't how you're supposed to conduct yourself. And see, honestly, with a company like this, you could have situations where people could press charges. There could be lawsuits or arrests. If you have fist fights, then you just let them go. And I think it's not worth it. And I think Tony Khan, in that statement right there, came off as very professional and as very honest. And I saw that video and I thought, you know what? I'm going to show this on the show tonight because that kind of swings me toward AEW and Tony's favor. And I'm CM Punk, let's move on from him.
They say that your dog can bite one person, but your dog cannot bite two people. Because after your dog bites the first person, now you know that your dog bites.
Right. It's funny you should say that because his dog was in one of the first fights, and he claimed that one of the wrestlers kicked the dog. And then the wrestlers were the one wrestler was Kenny Omega, and he's a huge animal advocate. Like, he has cats and dogs and stuff. He's like, I would never kick a dog, and like stuff like that. But yeah, so that's what I had for CM Punk. No longer with AEW, and man, what a downfall for this guy.
Did he just go into business for himself once too often?
Oh, for sure. So from my perspective, I believe he has, he was definitely, he was going into business for himself. He did it already once. And then specifically that one time when he did it with Hangman Adam Page is after all the incidences. So he's already on thin ice, and then he's trashing Adam Page, which doesn't help anybody. Really weird stuff. And who knows about the championship, the real championship with the X through it? Was that his idea? And he's just doing it? Who knows?
Does anybody hire him at this point to be a pro wrestler? Does anybody take a chance on him at this point? For the kind of money that he would demand, that we think? Like,
I think he might, and I don't even know if WWE would take a shot on him. He quit WWE. I mean, it's all pretty apparent he's horrible to work with, and WWE has a good thing going now. Would they bring him back for WrestleMania, right? To be seen. I don't know. Anything can happen. If they know that they need to push tickets, then maybe. But I know Triple H does not like him. Like, really does not like him. So, as a result of him really not liking him, more so probably than Vince, he has said, you never say never in this business. Like, Triple H has already said never say never in this business, but, we've worked with them before, and we're not really looking at it right now. So, all right.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I don't know much about CM Punk.
All right, so that's the real. I'd say this. That was our main event cheap heat. That's the lead, if you will. But Dom, you have a couple things you wanted to talk about.
Got some quick hitters here. Do you remember Gail Kim?
Yes.
Gail Kim. WWE's women's division, right now being as great as it is, owes a debt of gratitude to TNA Impact Wrestling in the early days. Mm-hmm. They had great women's wrestlers, and it forced the WWE to use the women as more than just eye candy and underwear models. And Gail Kim may have been the greatest of them all. She is returning to the ring for one more match at Impact 1000. This comes to us from WrestleZone. Impact 1000. First of all, what a great benchmark for Impact Wrestling that they're going to do their 1000th show. They're going to tape it September 9th in White Plains, New York, and it's supposed to air. It's supposed to be broadcast the following Thursday, September 14th. I believe that's a Thursday, if not a Wednesday, with just the following week. So, congratulations, Impact, for 1,000 episodes. Congratulations, Gail Kim, on a fantastic career and getting in there one more time. It seems that she's going to come back and team with Awesome Kong. Let's see if they mentioned that. Yes, during the conversation, it was teased Kim might be stepping into the ring with Awesome Kong. Looks like Awesome Kong, or they misspelled Awesome King here, will be. It was her greatest rival in Impact. Maybe tag team here now. So great here. What do you know about Gail Kim? What do you know about Awesome Kong? What do you know about Impact Wrestling, especially their women's division? Is this a big deal to you?
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool, right? It's not going to be a huge ratings thing because Impact doesn't have a lot of ratings, but I just think it's cool. Go ahead.
It could be. I mean, for them, it could bump it, whatever, a couple thousand people, whoever it is. But Awesome Kong was in AEW, and I was familiar with her from there. And Gail Kim, I'm familiar with her. I used to go to a weird bar in Philadelphia on Wednesday nights. And I was wrestling actively, but I really wasn't watching it. But this guy would always have on TNA. at the bar. So I'd be sitting there getting food, getting a drink, sitting at the bar with my wife, and we'd be watching TNA. And Gail Kim was all over it, and he was like, he'd always be, the bartender was rant and rave, be like, she's so good, man. Like, she's really, really a good wrestler. And this is before, like you said, like, she kind of laid the foundation of like, oh yeah, you need to be a good wrestler. You can't just be eye candy. So pretty cool stuff.
Pretty cool spot. We like it. How about this? Some WWE women's wrestling news. We saw Bianca Belair get jumped by Damage Control. The news is that they're trying to write her off of TV for a little bit. This also comes to us from WrestleZone. So that beatdown was part of just a way to give a little time to her to be off of TV. I don't know if she's legitimately hurt or if there's something else going on here. But you know, not a terrible way to do it. You know, have somebody get jumped, and that gives you an excuse to give them some time off, maybe repackage their storyline. Mm-hmm. We noted that the top of the women's division on SmackDown was getting crowded. So maybe this is a good way to get one of them just some time off without looking weak, and then come back with maybe another storyline. Well, what do you think of all the people to give a break to Bianca Belair getting the break here?
She's been going for a while. She had the title forever, so it makes sense.
She did. Okay, so and we like her. We want her to come back, right? We hope she's not injured for real, right?
Yeah, I wonder if she's pregnant or something, because isn't she married or with that guy or?
She is married to Montez Ford. Now, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, they also just underwent this, although they weren't beaten down and injured. Mm-hmm. But they were off TV for a little bit to get repackaged. And we think it worked for them. They're with Bobby Lashley now, and I'm excited about where that's going.
Definitely worked.
So that worked as well. One more thing quickly. We talked about the Bloodline not being on this pay-per-view. The ratings came out this past Monday for SmackDown August 25th. This was the tribute to Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk. It was watched by, on average, 2,647,000 viewers, including over 1 million in the key demographic of 18 to 49. This was their highest rated show in years. In years since pre-pandemic. You're talking about highest viewership for the 18 to 29 since February 28th of 2020. SmackDown's highest rated for total viewership since December of 2020. And this was with no Bloodline. Mm. And maybe people were tuning in because they knew something would be mentioned about Bray Wyatt and maybe even Terry Funk. But it was a strong show. It held people's attention. And, fantastic. The WWE is just doing great numbers. Are you surprised that a show does this kind of numbers with no Roman Reigns and really no Bloodline of note on the program?
It shows you the impact Bray Wyatt had. I have seen things written about him by fans. He had a lot of fans, I guess, throughout his tenure. And I think it was just people who liked that character. Certain types of people gravitated to that character. And I think those types of people were watching. And maybe they were more casual because they weren't usually watching. But then they decided to watch for that Friday night. So pretty impressive that they got that number. Unfortunately, that sometimes is those tribute shows are unfortunately pretty good draws, and
with the Bloodline out of it, at least for a couple of weeks there. I like the breathing room that it gives to other storylines, other wrestlers, other performers, other segments that aren't fighting for an even smaller pie, because TV is a zero-sum game. If you got a 2-hour show and one thing goes long, something else has to be cut. Mm-hmm. And so I like the breathing room here. Are you surprised that they seem to have built up enough other interesting things to do a number like this? And of course, we'll see if it holds. But for 1 week or 2 weeks at least, I've been impressed by having no Bloodline and them still being interesting shows. What say you?
It shows the depth in the SmackDown roster. They don't have to just rely on the bloodline. I think this gives us the opportunity to not get stale. That's what they want to avoid.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like every now and then with the bloodline, time's ticking on the storyline. Like, I know they continue to move it, but there's always a now what, you know? So it's like the NWO. Like, that thing got stale, right? Once it keeps moving. So
yes.
Give it a break for a couple.
But they couldn't keep the NWA off of TV for 2 or 3 weeks straight. They had to keep running them out there.
Yeah.
It had taken over everything they were doing. So the WWE, good job of building up something besides their A story.
For sure. Any other cheap heat here, Dom?
All right. That's all I got. I enjoyed the conversation there, and we'll see where it continues. One more thing about The Miz. The Miz is basically who Logan Paul could be if Logan Paul committed to wrestling, right? Because The Miz was a star before he got into wrestling. He brought that with him, brought the personality, but he committed to wrestling. And all these years later, you know, he's still great.
Yes.
Is The Miz kind of the proto Logan Paul? Since we finally got to talk about him as a wrestler tonight.
The huge difference between The Miz and Logan Paul is The Miz was on like Real World Road Rules Challenge, and like nobody knew. A lot of people didn't know who he was. Logan Paul is pretty legitimate businessman. Like he's got a very popular podcast. He's got all the different fights he does with his brother. He's got prime energy. Like Logan Paul right now is probably bigger than The Miz right now. Let's put it like that.
Oh, sure.
So The Miz, when he came into WWE, you know, he was a gimmick. Or he was like, oh, this guy's on Real World. We need like people. It's similar in that same vein. We need people that are like outside of the wrestling business that we could bring people that watch Real World now. So that's why he was pushed to the WWE. But yeah,
just wanted to, this is a little Italian goodbying here with you. I just wanted to bring that up since we finally got to talk about The Miz in a non-jokey context. You know, he wrestled a good match tonight in a very quick but strong program. And I'm impressed by what I saw from The Miz.
I think Logan Paul will have no problem getting cheap heat because people hate him. Legit. So